Guys, I've officially done it. I am choosing to switch sides. And as you can tell, definitely already disappointed right off the bat with, how my favorite team performed, even though we got the win. And look, I mean, it was a tough decision to make. We're week 13 into the season. Do I want to do it this early? Do I want to just turn my back on my team right now? I don't know. I got the jersey on right now, and I think it's just the right thing to do at this point in the year because, as everybody knows, everybody's called me online. I'm a bandwagoner by heart. So it just feels like the right thing, But no, just kidding. I'm still a Chiefs fan, don't worry. But shout out this jersey. I'm wearing an Ndamukong Suh 2000s Lions jersey. It's like the lighter blue. I just thought I'd rep it today because it was super cool. I was at a flea market this past weekend. Shout out T&J Collectibles in Lambertville, New Jersey at the Golden Nugget Flea Market. I got this jersey. Super awesome. They have tons of great stuff. So shout them out before we start this episode. But yeah, that's why I'm wearing it. I'm still a Chiefs fan. Don't worry, guys. I got you. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. I'm your host, Sam Gold. And as you know, we're here to do another recap. This time it's week 13. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Happy holidays. We're in December now. We're getting towards the final stretch of the season. So yeah, as you know, there's a lot of crazy things we got to talk about and recap. But before we get to any of our segments, we've been doing this now for the past couple of weeks. I want you guys to go down in the comment section below and comment your bold take for this week. Whoever has the boldest take, we're going to pin in the comment section and shout them out on our next recap episode. So with that being said, we had a few comments last week. Thank you guys for commenting. But our winner this week from last week's video is ReedAndy-U5S. Thank you for commenting. And the comment is, the Texans are going to be a first-round exit this year. Teams have figured out how to limit C.J. Stroud this year with more film on him, which is an interesting take. The reason why I pin this is because I agree for the most part. Now, I don't want to put all the blame on C.J. Stroud. We've talked a lot about the Texans so far this season, how they have been struggling. Although they're still 8-5, they're still going to host a playoff game most likely. And I don't want to put it all on the fact that teams just figured him out and they have more film. I think that's a small part of it, but you got to look at their offensive line. You got to look at the fact that Stephon Diggs has gotten hurt and their offense has definitely taken a hit since then. And I just feel like CJ Stroud's losing that confidence, kind of like how Mahomes is without the trust of his line. So there's a lot of different things, coming at you when you're thinking about why the Texans are struggling a little bit more this season. They're still on track to have the same, if not a better record than last year. So we'll see what happens. But good take there. I like that. So yeah, once again, guys, comment down below if you want your take to be read next week. And we'll see who has the best one. All right. So let's move on to our first segment. It's the 2-minute drill. As you guys know, the 2-minute drill is where we talk about all the games that we don't want to go too much in depth about, but we still want to say a couple of things about each. And let's start the 2-minute timer now. Let's go back to Thanksgiving. Giants, Cowboys, pretty much as expected. I almost got the score exactly right. The Cowboys win it 27-20. I mean, the Cowboys are fully convinced. Micah Parsons thinks they can make a run and make the playoffs now. Just because you beat the Giants at home on Thanksgiving, congrats, you finally won a home game, doesn't mean at 5-7 now you have a chance all of a sudden, because the Giants, newsflash, are one of the worst teams I've seen in a long time. So, screw that. Packers, Dolphins, just a classic example. I called this of Tua not being... Actually, okay, let me backtrack. He wasn't that bad. He actually had decent stats. But the Dolphins in general just can't go away in the cold and beat a team, especially like the Packers. So that was not surprising at all. The Packers win 30-17. Let's move on to Sunday. Colts-Patriots, a very close game, a fun one. Anthony Richardson calls the game at the end with a QB run, going for 2, wins it at the last second. Congrats to Shane Steichen and keeping confident in his guy and getting the win. They're now 6-7, getting closer to the Patriots. Look frisky. I like it. Drake May's looking better each week, but it's good. Keep losing, and maybe you'll get yourself Travis Hunter in the draft. Commanders, Titans. This is exactly what the Commanders needed. They needed a bounce back. They scored like 28 points in the first quarter. Jaden Daniels looked good. And also shout out Will Levis and Nick Westbrook-Akine, who has 8 touchdowns in his last 8 games. What the fuck? Anyways, Rams, Saints, 21-14. The Rams win it. kind of a boring game. Not much to say there. Seahawks, Jets. Just I knew the second the Jets were up 21-7, they were gonna find a way to blow it. So just a classic Jets game in the Aaron Rodgers era. I'm so sick of talking about them. Congrats, Seahawks. Still first place. Let's move on. Texans, Jags. I wanted to almost talk about this in depth, except the Jags really just don't matter to the NFL at this point. So the only thing I want to shout out is Azeez Al-Shaair. What the fuck are you doing? There's a whole compilation out there online of your horrible, dirty hits. We're going to go over 2 minutes, but it's okay. There's a lot of great games to talk about. Anyways, 2 more games left really quick. Vikings, Cardinals, another game I almost wanted to talk about. But with these games and these teams, if you're pretty much proving the same thing we know about yourself week after week, which is the Vikings are the Chiefs without real expectations in that they always keep games close. And at the end of the day, we really know what they're going to do with the playoffs. I'm sorry, Al. Cardinals, man, they blew that game too. They're up 19-6. Yikes. And then finally, Bills 49ers. I mean, yeah, I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm scared as fuck against the Bills this year. Josh Allen, deserved MVP. He had the play of the year. He's had the both plays of the year so far, with the run against the Chiefs and then that lateral back where he reaches out and gets the touchdown right behind me. Great snow game. Love watching it. The 49ers are dead. All right. I went a little bit over this week, but I feel like it makes sense with the Thanksgiving games, and a lot of these games are just really close. I wanted to leave out the games from the more in-depth conversations, just like I said with the Vikings. Like, if the teams really just proved what we already knew, I don't want to get too repetitive. So I left 6 games here on the board to really talk about. The first 2 I can kind of go rather quickly. The first one I have is Falcons-Chargers, which ended 17-13. I had the Chargers winning by 3. They won by 4. Pretty close game. I feel like I got that kind of right. And I like when I put out like 1 or 2 prediction clips per week. Shout out, go follow us at First and Gold on our TikTok or Instagram. I put out Falcons Chargers this week. It does feel nice when you get a game pretty close, which is like the one you actually put out online. So I'll take that. Thank you. But, okay. Kirk Cousins, 4 interceptions. He has 13 on the year. If he gets 1 more, he ties his career highest in a single season. And the Falcons are 6-6. I kind of saw this coming. I felt like with that game against the Seahawks they had a few weeks back after starting 5-2, I just could see that this was a team that, yes, can still make the playoffs for sure. They're still in first place in their division, but there's just red flags that surround this team. The fact that Bijan Robinson is having a very solid season, but for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like he's having the same impact as a Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley or Joe Mixon or Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is with Bijan, but it just feels like this is a team that should be playing a lot better on paper. Now, I know that Jim Harbaugh probably doesn't have the toughest time game planning for a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's very solid. But, I mean, if you get a good pass rush on him, you're going to make him have a game with 4 interceptions and a pick 6 at that as well. That was a huge game changer. Shout out Derwin James. I think he had 2 interceptions. And it was just a huge part of that win for the Chargers after a tough loss against the Ravens. But it just feels like if you're a Falcons fan, you're happy that Kirk Cousins has not had an Aaron Rodgers-like season. He's had many, many good games so far this year. But this is just what I was saying. These are the cracks in the foundation of this team. Your defense is starting to fall apart a little bit more. They had good moments in this game for sure. They didn't give up too much against Justin Herbert. But, man, like the Bucks just won. We'll get to that game a little bit later. It just feels like this is a first-round exit waiting to happen for the Falcons. And it's unfortunate because I kind of want to see Kirk Cousins get 1 more playoff win before he retires. And he's still going to be in the league for a few more years. But, man, just like I said with that Seahawks game last week, like the fact that you can get blown out by the Seahawks at home after starting 5-2, and now you're 6-6, I'm just not fully confident in this team right now. So, props to the Chargers, though. 8-4. If there's a coach that can get their team to bounce back after a tough loss against the Ravens, it's the Chargers. It's Jim Harbaugh. It sucks that J.K. Dobbins is out for the rest of the year. It looks like every single season this guy suffers a season-ending injury. I don't get it. It's just their luck. But, man, I mean, Ladd McConkey, talk about a guy that you're going to want to draft high in fantasy next year that just exploded this year. Very, very solid. Quentin Johnston had a drop, which is pretty funny. But overall, it felt like, it was funny at the beginning of the fourth quarter, I forget who it was. Maybe it was the Falcons. I forget which team it was, but someone like fumbled a kick return. And you were just like, oh, here we go. Classic Falcons trying to Falcons it and Chargers trying to Charger it. And you just felt like you were going to have this really weird end of the game. It didn't happen to be like too crazy, but they're just one of those teams, the Falcons, where if you have a 2-minute drive at the end of the game, it could really go either way with Kirk Cousins. And it was already trending downwards this entire game. And then that pick to end it at the end is just, I don't know. It just reminds me of some of these other quarterbacks where there's weeks where they really have spurts, like Kyler Murray in the Cardinals or CJ Stroud in the Texans, but they're just not on that top tier, and that's what scares me about the Falcons. But congrats to the Chargers. We'll move on to one of the Thanksgiving games we'll actually talk about in depth, Bears-Lions. It wouldn't be a Thanksgiving game without the Lions maybe planting a seed of doubt in people's heads that they can lose again. They haven't won in like 7-8 years, something like that, so props to them for getting the win, but it was against the Bears. And look, the obvious storyline of this game was, finally, first of all, Matt Eberflus getting fired. I was calling for this weeks ago. The fact that Caleb Williams is still showing improvements week after week, and Matt Eberflus is still holding them back in this fashion should actually make Bears fans pretty optimistic going into next season. But, man, do they need to get him off the team. I mean, how many more Bears coaches over the fucking years are going to ruin any potential that this team has? Seriously. I mean, Matt Nagy, bad enough as a Chiefs fan. I got to deal with him ruining the offense occasionally. But, oh gosh, Matt Eberflus. I saw on Twitter, on my timeline, that people were like, is this the worst coach in NFL history? And I'm like, all right, calm down. This is absolutely recency bias. He sucks. He's a horrible coach. But it's not the worst. I mean, we had Urban Meyer just a few years ago who was god-awful. But look, that decision at the end of the game to not call a timeout, I was screaming at the television. I'm a Chiefs fan. I don't give a fuck about Bears-Lions. But, like, still, just as a football fan, I could do better. I don't care. I know everybody goes out there and says that, and you look like a dumb idiot with your microphone or whatever. You can call me that. I don't care. But I could fucking call a timeout. What are you doing? You kick a field goal. I don't know if they somehow didn't trust Cairo Santos or Matt Eberflus just legit had a brain fart. He went on the press conference after the game and said he made the right decision. I mean, why are you doubling down at this point? Is it because you already know you're going to get fired? Maybe. But what the fuck are you doing? Are you trying to avoid getting any calls from any other teams to even have an assistant job next year? I don't know. I can't talk right now. I'm losing breath. This is not good. It's the Thanksgiving food coming out. I'm sorry, guys. But thank God Caleb Williams at least has had his flashes this year. He actually has limited his turnovers. I think he only has like a few turnovers in the last like 7-8 games. So he's doing solid. But just such a classic Bears flub in prime time on Thanksgiving. Just, God, thank God. Look, Bears fans, rejoice. Just keep losing now at this point. Maybe get like one more win for just some morality, you know what I mean? Just for Caleb Williams to be happy, but just get yourself a good draft pick at this point. All right, I don't actually want to talk about that much, but I think it's proper to finally give this team its send-off it deserves in the fact that we really don't need to talk about this team for the rest of the year. And I really wanted to, and it's a rarity that a Chiefs fan wants them to be good just because of my dad. It's Bengals-Steelers. The Steelers go out and win 44-38. The highest scoring Bengals-Steelers game of all time. I don't even feel like talking about the Bengals, honestly. I really don't. I really don't feel like talking about them. The fact that you're wasting Joe Burrow's potential like this pisses me the fuck off. I can't take it anymore. I'm a Chiefs fan. I say this. I feel like I'm saying this every single week of the last 2 seasons. Anytime we've had this podcast on camera, the Bengals have just disappointed. And last year, at least you had an excuse with the injury, and Jake Browning came in and still looked pretty solid. And actually, I do make comparisons. I think Joe Burrow is kind of the Drew Brees of this era right now. He's very similar in his play style. I think he's a little bit better, but I don't know about that. Let not go too far. But I mean, the dude, if they were even 6-6 right now, I think Joe Burrow's MVP for sure. I mean, this guy's putting up 3 touchdowns, 400 yards, like almost every game, and this is what you get in return. I don't understand. I don't understand anymore. Just tear the whole organization down. I don't even blame Jamar Chase if he wants to just go somewhere else at this point. Like, the Bengals don't deserve Joe Burrow anymore. They don't deserve him. Point blank, period. I don't get it. Even Mahomes, with his worst defense, can go out and throw for 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. Joe Burrow's trying his absolute best, and they're 4-8. That's not Joe Burrow's fault at all. That's not a comparison between Mahomes and Burrow. I'm just saying, like, there has to be something severely wrong with the organization at that point. The coaching, the players just look like they don't give a shit anymore. It felt like half of the Steelers' touchdowns they had were just walk-ins because they're like, you know what? Whatever. We give up. So I don't blame these players that are going to get paid this offseason on the Bengals if they don't want to stay with the team. I don't blame them. So that's it. Congrats to the Steelers. You deserve all the whatever you want and bragging rights, but I think this was just more, just like the Lions-Bears game, this is more just a send-off for the Bengals. And I'm sorry to my dad. I'm sure he's actually happy about it. Then I'm not going to have to talk about them anymore this year. But, what a horrible season. Anyways, goodbye, Bengals, for the 2024 season. All right. Okay, a few games. Here's a feel-good game, I feel like. Bucks-Panthers, both teams come out of it. Maybe not Panthers fans too much, but there is a bright side to this. I'll get to that in a second. But Bucks-Panthers, the Bucks win in overtime, 26-23. First of all, this game made me feel way better about the Chiefs' performance in Carolina last year because the Panthers, man, like, they actually have shown so much heart in these last few weeks. Bryce Young is smiling again. He's throwing confident. It actually even looks like he has more time in the pocket. Also, that Adam Thielen touchdown, which wasn't called a touchdown, was absolutely a touchdown. And I don't know what the fuck the refs were doing on that play. But anyways, the fact that the Panthers just look like they have life again. You can hear the crowd on TV again. I felt like every Panthers game we watched the last 3 seasons, you're like, where are the fans? I don't hear anything. Is this COVID again? But it's just nice to see a franchise that deserves some happiness. Not the owner. We'll get to that in another day, but man, it's so nice to see Bryce Young finally thriving and the team limiting their turnovers. I think they average about a turnover a game on defense, which is good. And these players just look like they're playing for something again, which is very important. And the fact that they're losing isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think Bryce Young is going to be the future in Carolina for another year. It was a great thing that he got benched. It really told him a lot about himself. He learned a lot behind Andy Dalton. He took a look in the mirror, took a fresh breath, said, hey, I got to work on a lot of shit. I got to build my confidence back up again. And I credit Dave Canales, the head coach, for the way that they're about to turn around this organization. Now, all they seriously need is talent to start surrounding this team. And I think things are finally looking up for the Panthers. And I like the Panthers, so I'm happy for them. And I think they're one of those teams that can deserve some good losses for the rest of the year just so they have better draft capital. So even though that Chuba Hubbard fumble at the end was very devastating after that great Adam Thielen catch to almost set them up in field goal range, and then eventually the Bucs go down and kick the game winner, I think at the end of the day, you're not really looking for the playoffs. You're looking for exactly what you've seen in your team the last few weeks, which is, yeah, occasionally get some wins for confidence, but even if you don't win, that's still building good draft capital, and everybody looks happier and is actually finally growing, and Bryce Young looks like a competent, solid starting quarterback in the NFL. So that's the good news for Panthers fans. For Bucs fans, it's been the same story the whole season. It's Baker Mayfield playing his ass off, occasionally throw some interceptions, occasionally have some great touchdown passes and some great plays. Mike Evans is back now, which is good. He had a phenomenal touchdown catch at the first quarter. But your defense is shaky, and you play a lot of these games close, but Baker is the one that keeps you in them for the most part. And as long as he keeps playing turnover, as long as he's limiting his turnovers for the most part, you still definitely have a chance to win that division. It sucks that you lost to the Falcons twice, but you're both 6-6. You don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year, so I think that was still a huge win and a huge break after that Chuba fumble for the Bucs to come out of there with the W. All right. 2 games left. Eagles-Ravens was your marquee matchup of the week. It kind of disappointed in the fact that, you know, after the Eagles really got themselves going, it just felt like the Ravens lost a little bit of life in that game. The final score was 24-19. It wasn't as close as that score. I mean, the Ravens scored a garbage touchdown at the end. They were up 9-0 to start. And man, this is it. Yeah, I already said this last week. The Eagles are for sure a championship contender. It's going to be them or the Lions. I am super confident it has to be one of those 2 teams. Yes, maybe the Packers sneak in somehow, but wow. I have never seen a team come off of that many bad vibes of the previous season. And even at the start of this year, starting 2-2, and then even when you started winning, Nick Sirianni was doing weird things. He was yelling at the fans. But I have to give more props to the Eagles. They look like one of the scariest offenses, honestly, of the last decade. And I'm not just talking about, like, it's not even that they put up a ton of points. It's just the fact that if Jalen Hurts, who is a very solid quarterback, we all know that, and if they have their offense healthy, they have tons of weapons. But if he's not having a great day, the fact that now you can rely on a guy who's literally about to win, if Josh Allen doesn't, he's about to win an MVP that a non-quarterback hasn't done since Adrian Peterson in Saquon Barkley. If he pulls this off, and you got that in your back pocket, it's not really a back pocket because that's what pretty much everyone's game planning for, but still, the fact that you can fall back on a guy that's probably going to win MVP in Saquon Barkley when Jalen Hurts might not be playing his best. And on top of that, your defense has played much better than last year. Shout out Cooper DeJean. That guy is insane. He's a rookie. He's going to have a bright future. The fact that you lock down the Ravens like that, props to the Eagles. And I think the reason why I was so hesitant on the Eagles to start, not only because I just still don't really like Nick Sirianni, and I'm still going to stand by that. I don't like him that much. And I'm going to give more of the props to the offensive and defensive coordinators. I don't think Nick Sirianni is that good of a leader. I'm sorry. I'm always going to stand by that. But the fact that you made that turnaround, I think that was just what I was really waiting for. And even though they were winning some games and they've been on the streak for a long time, I think I needed to see some of these bigger wins where a guy like Saquon can just take over the game. And then a team on the offensive side of the ball against them can't match that because their defense is finally playing lights out. That's a scary thing to watch. And I would be very, very afraid if I were Jared Goff and the Lions. Because if you slip up in one game, if you have one of those weird Jared Goff getting pressured constantly, throws 3 interceptions, kind of like a game you played against the Texans, I'm sorry, the Eagles are not the Texans. And you're not going to be able to bounce back against a team like that. So the Eagles are a sneaky contender for the number 1 seed this year. And if they host the playoffs, this could be another 2022 all over again with Saquon on top of that. So props to the Eagles. With the Ravens really quickly, they've just been doing this. Like, I'm sorry, the Ravens are always scary at their best, but they'll just have games where almost immediately, maybe not immediately, but like by halftime, you can kind of just see, oh, it's just one of those Ravens games where Lamar kind of struggles. It's the same thing against the Steelers, same thing against the Chiefs. Actually, this is only Lamar's second ever loss to an NFC opponent, which is pretty crazy, but... And I'm not going to put the full blame on him. I mean, the other storyline from this game, obviously, is Justin Tucker completely washed at this point. Everybody's saying that the Chiefs used their voodoo magic to screw over his career after he was kind of messing with them in the AFC Championship game, pre-game, when he was practicing on their end zones, and Travis Kelce Mahomes kind of throws his stuff to the side, whatever. Oh my gosh, I remember having to argue that on the fucking podcast last year. Like, it was a whole big deal. It was so annoying. Anyways, people are referring back to that, saying that's the moment Justin Tucker got cursed or whatever, but... seriously, that is an issue. And people are like, if you're going into Buffalo, let's say, in the divisional round with all that wind on top of that, he's not a guy you can be confident anymore as a kicker. So that's going to be an issue. And let's move on to a game that I really like. Some of these Chiefs games, I don't want. Look, I'm sure everybody's sick of me talking about the Chiefs. Even I'm sick of it. And we're 11-1. Like, this was not a game. Chiefs Raiders, 19-17, by the way. The Chiefs won. This is not a game I thought I would have to be coming on here and save it for last and, like, spend 5 minutes on. This is not what I wanted. I just wanted to enjoy my Black Friday, not have it like the game on Christmas last year, and just find, like, the only game that was any bit just normal this year was Chiefs Saints. Who the fuck cares about Chiefs Saints anymore? That was week 5. So, we won. Great. That's awesome. Fine. But do we win? Do we really win? We're the Vikings this year. We're the Texans. We're the same shit. And we're still going to find a way, I'm sure, to fucking be in that AFC Championship game with a chance to win it in the 4th quarter. And I'm going to look so spoiled on this podcast right now. Everybody's like, shut up, Sam. You've been a back-to-back Super Bowl champion. You're 23 years old. All you know is winning. Stop. I understand that. But I said this for the last couple of weeks. Like, what are we doing? Needing a fumble at the end by Aiden O'Connell in his center. Oh my gosh, like, what are we doing? Needing a fumble. People said that the Chiefs-Broncos game a few weeks ago was pure luck that we won that. No, it wasn't. The Chiefs made a play at the end of that game to block that kick. This game, however, complete and utter luck. And now I'm starting to get convinced that the Chiefs are actually using voodoo magic this season. Even I'm getting convinced. Mr. Skeptic over here. What do I do when I watch these games? Everybody's telling me stop complaining. And then on the other hand, if I don't point out any complaints, I'm just a delusional bandwagoner that thinks everything is roses. So what do I do? Seriously. I just watched the Chiefs beat the Raiders, who were 2-10, from a fumble. We scored 19. Those teams, the Commanders, scored 28 in the first quarter. I haven't had many rants about the Chiefs this year, but it's just so stupid. And we're going to lose in Cleveland in 2 weeks. I just know it. And then we're going to lose to the Steelers and lose the 1 seed and then have to go to Buffalo. And then Josh Allen is finally going to win the Super Bowl this year. And it's fine because I'm spoiled, but... God, like, I don't even want to get too in-depth about the Chiefs. This is just more of a rant right now. Like, if I could really get in-depth, there's actual reasons why we keep having these close games. It's the lack of confidence from Mahomes in his left tackle, in his right tackle. It's his lack of chemistry with his receivers. Even DeAndre Hopkins dropped a wide-open catch after Mahomes made a heck of a play on that one throw. It's just little things like that. We need the team to get a little healthier. Isaiah Pacheco didn't get a lot of carries in this game, and don't worry, he definitely will be more involved as we move forward throughout the rest of this regular season. Hollywood Brown will come back in a couple weeks. You know, our secondary is severely struggling now without Jalen Watson, so there are a lot of red flags and holes that the Chiefs really need to craft and work on these last few weeks. So hopefully, I just got to trust them just like last year. We have a better record than last year. I still think our offense is better than last year. So those are good signs for the Chiefs. They obviously proved last year that they can go out and win a Super Bowl. So all rants aside, I'm still going to hold confidence, even though the Chiefs make it really tough to sometimes. But listen, there are reasons behind this. It's not all voodoo magic or whatever. There's a reason why the Chiefs look mid every week. It's a lot of lack of confidence, lack of chemistry, and just things we really got to work out. But look, if there's one team you can trust to build another championship season, it's a team that's used to winning. It's Mahomes, it's Reed, it's Chris Jones, it's Kelsey. It's all those factors coming into play. So if we can just get healthier and work some things out, I think we'll be okay. With that being said, that is the end of this episode. I am so out of breath. I'm sure I'm super red. I'm always red. Anyways, we'll be back for the next episode, which is going to be our predictions. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below your bold take this week. We love interacting with you guys. Thank you for watching. Follow us at First and Gold on Instagram and TikTok. We'll see you next episode. Goodbye.